First award is a new award category, the Outstanding New Lawyer Award. And this is the inaugural one, and Greg Monroe is going to present the award. I'm actually presenting this award for Jim Hunt. The award goes to Jonathan. The award goes to Jonathan McDonald. And I want to say a few words. I met Jonathan McDonald when he was my student in law school. I'm not sure how we connected, but instantly I realized a couple of things about him. One, he's smarter than hell. And he's got a remarkable brain for strategy and tactics. And he can go for the jugular in insurance cases. He has an absolute incredible knowledge of insurance, and he's fascinated by it, which is weird. I really appreciate that person. And Jonathan, the highest accolade I can say about people that I meet in the law school, and I wish I could practice with, and I've always wanted to practice with Jonathan McDonald. And I hope I was instrumental in his hiring by Jim Hunt, who really leaned on Jim and said, "You need this guy." And the only detriment that Jim had, which is also a detriment suffered by many of these law students, in fact, I think all of them, is they have this kind of subversive tendency to favor people over corporations. And John was that way. And anyway, I just talked to John tonight and said, I want to associate on the case with you. I got this case, and I just would really consider it an honor to work with him because he's a great guy. Anyway, this is what Jim said. Jim's the one who could not be here tonight and really regrets it. I first met Jonathan through his wife, Jennifer McKee. Jennifer was working as a newspaper reporter with my brother-in-law, Chuck Johnson. Jennifer covered a trial I had and some cases. I could tell she was tenacious, smart, and had a good sense of humor. And for those of you who don't know, Conrad Burns grew to intensely dislike her when she covered the race between Burns and our current U.S. Senator, John Tester. My sister Pat and Chuck told me about Jennifer's husband, Jonathan. I had just hired a lawyer and was not interested in hiring another. Still, out of deference to Pat and Chuck, I met with Jonathan at Jester's Bar in Helena. He was finishing his second year, and while I was impressed with him, I told him I wasn't going to hire him for the summer. I suggested he work for the county attorney, and that's where he landed for the summer. He came back to me more than once, and I grew to like him as he weakened my resolve. Finally, I agreed to hire him. He is tenacious. Hiring Jonathan is one of the best life decisions I've ever made. As most of you know, he's smart, easy to talk to, and a good lawyer. He's tenacious and gets giddy when he jacks around an insurance adjuster. But there's more to him than the law world. He's a good husband. He's a wonderful father to his two children, Maggie and Cormac. He's loyal to his dog, who should have died 5 years ago. He's a pretty good pheasant and deer hunter. He makes good beer. He's patiently mentoring Sarah Mazanek, our new lawyer, who graduated from law school last year. And he's an all-around good guy. Greg Monroe, who I assume is reading this, knows him well. Greg called me about Jonathan before I hired him and told me about it. Greg said Jonathan really wanted to come work for me, and although he didn't understand why, I would be a fool to pass on him. Well, you were right, Greg. I didn't recommend Jonathan for this award. I didn't recommend Jonathan for this award because I didn't know about it. Don Harris recommended it. Thank you, Don, for doing so, because Jonathan is very deserving of the award, and I couldn't agree more, and it's an absolute pleasure. Jonathan?
Really, I appreciate it. I can think of a lot of other newer attorneys who deserve this at least as much as I do, probably more. And so I hope to see them out here in future years getting this award. I would like to thank my wife, Jennifer, who is my sounding board and safety net. And she's really the person who's more responsible for the successes I enjoy. Thank you. And the third thing I wanted to say before I sit down and keep this thing moving along fairly properly, and I mean this sincerely, is that I wouldn't be standing up here, and I doubt any other younger attorney would be standing up here tonight, if some older attorney hadn't taken an interest and a chance on me. And for me, it was Jim Hunt who gave me the opportunity to work for him right out of law school, and basically there was a shelf full of cases that he hadn't done completely amok. He allowed me to make mistakes and learn from them. And he's been nothing but a good mentor, a good friend, and he's a good partner. But I guess what I really like to tell you is more of an anecdote, which is this. I was talking with one of the story members of this body today, and we were looking over the people who were attending the plea. And he made the comment that this was turning into a group of gray-haired older men. There weren't enough young people involved. I thought he was probably right. And the reason he's right is because it's not the kind of thing you can just come out of law school and do by yourself. Whether you're, and it never was. Whether you're Eric Thusen standing up here 30 years ago, you wouldn't have been there but for John Boyle. And there's a whole group of storied and distinguished older trial lawyers here who got to work for John Boyle. And he launched their careers and gave them the skills to succeed. And so I guess what I'd like to say to some of the older members of this body is that if it is within your power, interest, and if you still have the time and the patience to do it, you should think about hiring a younger lawyer, maybe somebody just out of law school, and giving them the chance that I got and that I suspect most of the folks here got from someone else. This is a group that is getting older, and Governor Bullock talked to us at lunchtime. His view of the direction that things are headed is pressing. We're going to need more good young trial lawyers. The way to make them by taking a chance on somebody, hiring them, and maybe it works out. It doesn't always work out. That's the truth. And it can be frustrating and probably financially disadvantageous sometimes to hire a younger attorney. On the other hand, sometimes it's just when you need to reinvigorate your own practice. So the last thing I guess I'd like to say is if you have it in you, maybe you should think about trying to hire somebody. Take a chance on them, and you may find it's one of the better things you do in your career. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well deserved. Next.